How's it going, y'all? Welcome to another edition of Thursday Weekly Aksys Stream. My name is Sami, and today we're going to do something that I'm pretty excited for. We're going to go through Akatsuki, which is my preferred character in Under Night. So that's what I'm going to do. So the idea of today is basically to give you like a quick rundown, not to be like this is a beginner on how to play Under Night, but rather like you kind of know the basics and the fundamentals of Under Night at a like a sort of ground level. And then this is sort of like, oh, well, you know, how do I pick a character that I like, you know, or, and this would be like a, hey, if you like at the end of the stream, you like this character, then maybe you can pick them up. Ugh. All right, let's get him out of this to start. All right, cool. All right, so Akatsuki, for the most part, what you've seen as the character is a pretty like standard quote unquote Shoto style character, as in like he has sort of the kick move, he has the uppercut move, he has the fireball move, right? So in that respect, he's sort of like a Shoto, but he doesn't really like he's a little bit more bulldoggy than that. He doesn't exactly sort of play like what you'd think a traditional Shoto does, but he has a sort of a similar tool set. So that's mainly what the character's working with. He's a pretty like normal character, all things considered, but he's really rewarding when you can get to like really work with him. That's why I really enjoy playing this character. This character, I feel like, in my opinion, has to learn a lot about not only the matchups that they play, but also have to play basically play against the player as well, and they have to like really constantly adapt and learn how to play. I think that's really fun, and honestly, like whenever I play, I feel like I learn a little bit more about how to play because of that. So let's do a quick review of his normals. It's not going to be like super in depth, but there's going to be, you know, I'll bring up some things with how the character is played and stuff like that. So just like a quick rundown, this is his 5A. It's a pretty darn good 5A, honestly, all things considered. It's got good reach. It's kind of high up in the air. It's a decent throw OS if you do 4AD. Considering that he doesn't have very good anti-airs, that's not like his DP. And then his the only thing I'll probably note about his smart steer, and if you don't know, his smart steer is like the auto combo, right? The only thing I'll note about his smart steer is that it allows you to do some pretty neat things with the move, because the second hit moves him forward. So you can do stuff like if you do 5A, right, it just leaves you put, or if you do how to say, if you do like 2A 5A, you'll be too far out for a throw. But if you do 2 5AA and you use the smart steer version, then you'll be close enough to throw. So that's like a little neat trick that you can do. It's not like, oh, it's not like everything that you should do at all times, but it'll get you a throw every now and then, which is kind of neat. That's pretty much the best use out of it. The other cool thing is that it's accessible from rebeats, obviously. So you can do stuff like that, and it's kind of unexpected. In terms for combos, you don't really use it a tremendous amount. It has like a small use when you go into a combo in the corner. When you go into CVO. And then I forgot to cancel anyway. I forgot to cancel it. You can just do this. That's what I meant. I wanted to do the full combo, but my hands are still kind of hurting. So that's a pretty neat thing, because it just has such great range as a single jab. Quick, fast, -1 on block. It's nice. Far B. Far B. This button is awesome. I love this button. Look at this thing. This is a far forward button if I've ever seen it. Has a great range, pretty darn fast for a move that goes that far out. It moves him slightly forward, so it's hard to whiff if you're in range. It basically is like its speed and range, and has the ability to obviously go into another, or to go into 6C for most situations. Not that I suggest that a bunch of times, but that's something you can do for sure. Something like that. You can also do that with 2D, which is way safer. Or 2C, I mean. But it just has great range, right? You also see it a lot in combos and stuff like that. Because it just has such a great hitbox as well for combos. And it has some really nice OTG properties because of the nice hitbox, right? So if you do there you go. So because of that, because of having such great range and such great speed off it, getting a combo off this is not too hard. If you cancel from close B, which is the next move we're gonna get, you can get a second close B, so as a target combo-esque sort of move, which is really nice, because it gives you the chance to do stuff like that to get you another B move for getting more damage in combos. There you go. That's a nice way to get a B starter, easy combo, stuff like that. You get 2 Bs, which is nice. Working backwards. Close B. Close B is a really weird move. It's kind of short range, right? It's a proximity normal, I should say. Not a lot of characters have proximity normals, if any of them do, outside of Akatsuki. I'm trying to remember. Blending in. All right. So yeah, close B. It's just a really surprisingly good move. The only thing that it keeps it from being like super amazing is that it's a close normal. It's a proximity normal, right? It's 0 on block, which is really nice. Which means that characters that don't have 5-frame normals like you do, you can kind of harass them with this quite a bit. It also just has a fantastic hitbox for combos as well, so you'll see it a lot in specific combos. The one I was showing off a second ago was this one, where very specifically in the corner off Bitatsu, you have the ability to pick up with close B because it's just got such a good hitbox. It picks up off the ground. Yeah, it's just got a great hitbox. I don't understand why it has such a good hitbox, but it is really, really core for a lot of his combos because of it. Yeah, this is a super good move. It's one of those moves that kind of, it's like, a lot of the character works because of it, but it's not necessarily the move that you use in neutral all that much. Like that. Like a lot of that stuff is accessible because close B is such a good button. Next up we have far C. This is not as good of the anti-air as I'd like it to be, but it does have a nice hitbox to it, as you can see, right? It looks like this button's supposed to go over a crouching person's hitbox, but it just has a fantastic hitbox regardless. It moves them forward just like close B does. So there's that. That's really nice. It makes it hard to whiff. Also just hits really hard. Like a lot of good, pretty good damage for it. It does have head invul, but it's sort of very specific in an anti-air situation. You kind of want them to be at the right angle for this, as you can see it. And it's only head invul after it's active. It's 3 frames before its activation, because it starts up in 10 and it is on the 7th frame, which is a little bit more than you need to know about it, but that's beside the point. It's not the best anti-air still. unlike close BB, you can't do close CC like this, right? So you can't do you can't put 2 C's in before the combo, basically, before the combo starts, or before you get the launch like that, right? You wouldn't be able to do it with 2 C's in a row. It's a decent poke, but it's one of those things that almost never sees that potential. It's more that it's used for combos. Other than that, that's pretty much it. Like, you'll see it in corner combos a lot. I'm trying to remember one that uses it really well, but my brain's bad. Oh, right. You can do it in this combo. There you go. Next up, Close S. Close S. It's similarly animated to Dash B, but we'll get to that. So there are like 2 different versions of the same move, basically. So they have different properties. But in a lot of the places where combos would work, for Akatsuki in the corner, like this, where you get Close S. Far S will also work in the same situation, right? It doesn't one-to-one in every specific situation. For some reason, if you're doing a combo that starts like that and you accidentally get Far B instead of Close B, like, Far B will also work. Close B is technically +1. You don't see it all that often used like that, which is really nice. Yeah, it's +1. Thank you, thank you. It's you don't often see it like that because it's kind of hard to time when you're trying to not passing link, which is, you know, like Gatling. So it is +1, which is really nice. It's a good frame trap button, has a lot of untech time on counter hit, and yeah, the other thing is that it doesn't cancel. It doesn't target combo like 5B does, unfortunately. Other than using it on block like that as a frame trap, you don't really usually see this unless you're using it sort of in situations like that where it pushes out quite nicely. You can see like the range that characters get pushed out when close C gets hit is important, as you can see. So you have to be mindful of that. No worries. You're good. I got what you mean. I got what you mean. Yeah, he's very simple. That's why we're sort of doing it as sort of the first character that we're trying to do like a beginner's guide for. The simplicity of the character allows you to focus on the opponent, which is by design. This character, because he doesn't have a run, because he's so short, he has short normals compared to a majority of the cast, right? He really has to focus on playing defensively first in neutral, and then focus on basically playing the opponent. And then your tools should be easy enough for you to execute once you get the chance, right? That's sort of the idea behind the character. 2A. It doesn't look like a low, but it is a low, which is something that wasn't the case in previous versions of the game. This used to not be a low. So, but it is a low, and it's a super important low, because it is one of the lows that allows you to open people up, because it is not only 5 frames and it's super fast, but it's also super good for staggering, right? So 2AA, even though he uses his other hands like that, it's the same button, right? So it has the same frame data, unlike 5AA, which has different frame data, right? You can also chain them into each other, which is nice. But because you can chain them into each other, you can sort of stagger them a little bit in ways that will catch your opponent off guard. So you can do something like, if you want to frame trap with the first one into the second one, you can do 2 and sort of confirm into a full hit. Other than that, I'd say like this is pretty much it. It's your go-to low that's not like a poking low, right? 2B is more of a poking low, obviously also used for combos. It has a very specific combo use in situations where you get to use... Oops. Eitatsu in a combo. Like that. Oops. Oh, did I hold that charge? Like that. So it's super nice for that as well. But for the most part, other than that, you really don't see that move like that. You're pretty much I'm pretty much getting to the core of it. You use it for staggers. You use it as your low option. It's only -1, so you can let it rock on its own. It's also good to tick with, like this, and it opens up some other options for you to do stuff like that, and then you can get a high counter off Eitatsu for a serious amount of damage. So you can use it for staggers. It's your go-to low. I don't think there's much else to say about it. It's super low damage, right? You know, already look at the difference for lows. Once you get to once you get to the B buttons, you see the damage is way higher, right? The difference between A and B, and the difference between B and C, is a tremendous amount. So if you can, please try your best to avoid starting punish combos with crouching A's or standing A's. You kind of really want to start with B's as best as you can. Because if I were to do... Whoops. That. You can see how much more damage I get just by omitting the 2A. A single button omission, and it goes a tremendously long way for damage, right? So that's the only thing to say about that. 2B. This is sort of similar to his far B, but doesn't have as much range because he doesn't move forward, right? It is a low, which is nice. It's pretty fast at 8 frames. It's also 0 on block. So you can see stuff like this, right? To frame trap people. There you go. It also picks up off the ground really nicely. It has a nice hitbox for that, for certain combos. But it's just like an all-around great button. It's like this is your Shoto low forward if you want to attach him to a Shoto archetype, right? Like far B, if you want to sort of like hit confirm off of this, rather than doing like fireball special, you can do something like that instead. So you can buffer 2B, 2C, and a lot of the times it will reach. There's very few ranges where it won't, which is like max distance almost. Yeah, it's very hard to make them whiff, but it is possible. Yeah, I'm not getting it. It is possible, though. So if you do stuff like, if you're trying to poke in this range, maybe let's say you do something like on block 2AA, and then you're trying to get to a throw, right? You can walk backwards and do 2B, 2C. Something like that. Similarly, if you have a little bit more cojones than I do, you can go into 6C. It does have a bit of recovery, so you kind of don't want to whiff it. It's better than whiffing 2C, but it's not bad. There's other characters. The only problem with it is that in this game specifically, you can get outranged by characters on a defensive perspective, right? So if your butt's in the corner, let's say, and Akatsuki sort of walks back into this range right here, or let's say like another character like Wagner, something like this, walks back into this range where she still has the control of the range and you don't. You'd have to risk something like that. You're gonna have to commit to a heavier button in order to do it. So that means that you're gonna have to commit to a longer reaching button and a button that has more startup. In situations where you're sort of trying to outpoke, like you're trying to do like a throw bait, right? And you're trying to walk back out of throw range afterwards and try to get more value out of it. Counter poking with 2B against certain characters will be kind of rough. Offensively, however, when you're the person who's able to control the space, fantastic. You use it in certain combos, but it's not a tremendous amount of importance in terms of that. It fits in the combo that I use for punishes, only because it makes that slightly nicer than using far B, because my brain sucks and I don't have the ability to adjust timing properly. Like that. I messed that up quite a bit, but for some reason when I use 2B instead, it comes out way nicer. 2C. All right, we talked about 2C a second ago. But the nice thing about 2C that 2B doesn't have, other than it being a knockdown specifically, is that it leans forward a bit. You see if I whiff 2B in that range, I'll never get any closer. But 2C gets slightly closer. So he leans a little bit forward when he does it, which makes it a nice counter poke. You can use this for that specifically, but a lot of the times you'll see it in combos because it's got such a nice hitbox. It has such a nice air hitbox. Like, you can see how high it hits from the leg itself. Oops. Right? Super nice for that. And the box extends. Oops. Too early. There you go. By the way, I wish every game had this. Some games don't, and it really sucks. But when you have the ability to show off like a button and pause the frame like this, man, does it make it so nice to explain things, right? But like, the way that this like hitbox works is like really nice. It's you can see like right here, like right where his foot is. It's like it's all the way to the ground because it's a low, but it's like about where his waist is in terms of a hitbox. It's super nice for that. So you'll see me use it as the ground confirm after this. Oops, if I don't mess up the dash. Like that. Because it's got such a nice hitbox. But because also it's a C combo. So you'll see it used for that quite a bit. On its own, it's -6, so don't use it on its own like you use 2B. But you can rebeat it into a combo like that, which is a strategy that you can use at this range. You just have to be ready to confirm it. That's about it. But if you are ready for that sort of thing, in terms of range, it's one of the better pokes, but it's just slow. It's 11 frames. I wouldn't suggest it to beat people who are trying to outspace you, like we were mentioning before, where if your butt's in the corner, I wouldn't suggest trying to outpoke with 2C in this situation. It's just too slow, and it has the startup. The startup is like kind of prohibiting that. But it does lower your hitbox, so sometimes I've seen me like try to do this as a low poke and accidentally go over something. So it has that. But you can consider that its importance in range is definitely something to threaten, right? You're sitting out in this range where 2B no longer works. Being able to threaten being able to threaten this at all is really nice. And threatening the ranges is basically what makes this character tick at the highest level. You have to be able to be threatening at all of his effective ranges. We have Jump A. It's got a nice hitbox. There's not much to say about it. You use it in combos. Oops. Like that. Or in the corner. It has enough hit stun to do that sort of thing where you can do BCA at the end and then land and do close B because it just works. You can also, it has like a low enough hit stun for you to do tricky stuff like that on block. There you go. So then after you do something like this, let's say you get a throw. Next time you do this, you can throw bait with that. Or, even better, just press buttons quicker, and then you can get a combo off it. What else is there to say about this? Oh, when you do Bitatsu on block, this is basically like its best pressure situation. Bitatsu chain shift. There's some times and ranges where BA won't work. Right? So if you want to just use a single button instead, then I suggest using A. But it's a threatening of multiple things, right? You can just do whoops. Just do B, just do A, stuff like that. 7 Jump 7A, 7 or 9B. So not neutral, but jumping back or jumping forward. B, which has this like really nice like leaning in hitbox that you can see, right? Super good when you assault at certain ranges, right? But it doesn't really have like. It's not necessarily the best for this still because it has such little block stun. So that's unfortunate in that situation, but it has a nice hitbox for you in terms of like air to ground, right? Super good for that. On some characters, it has this. It has the ability to fuzzy. If you're one of the fatties, hold on. It's six start. So you can do stuff like that, which is pretty tricky. Like as an instant overhead thing. But that pretty much only works on the fatties, so it's not something to like completely pay attention to. Other than that, it goes into combos. When you assault onto it, if you hit it kind of late, it can be plus. But for the most part, you won't really be assaulting. If you're assaulting at this range, you're probably hoping to get something else out of it. Other weird specific things for this button. If you, let's say, do the thing I was doing before where you do Bitatsu chain shift for pressure, which is pretty common, and you accidentally get a hit, it's the nice go-to button because it does have enough hit stun for that. Oops. There you go. Which is that it has a nice hitbox for that sort of thing. Alright. Neutral jump B. This is sort of specific. It's pretty much combo filler. Because it can only be done from neutral jump. It doesn't really have a huge amount of specific uses for this. But you'll see it a lot in this corner combo right here. This is just sort of like your basic corner combo bread and butter. Easy to do. Oops. I say easy to do. So it fits in that, but pretty much for the most part, outside of that, it really doesn't have like a tremendous amount of uses. 7, jumping diagonal C. A lot of the times, if you're close enough, this is going to be your more likely jump in button. This or jump 6C. But for the most part, what you're using this for is a very, very nice hitbox in the air and some combo specific things. But it starts up slightly faster than jump 6C. So it has that going for it, and you can do it way up here. It's also really nice to end your combos with. If you have the opportunity to, it gives you a lot of nice situations. You can catch back tech with it because of how nice it is as a Oki ender. It doesn't do a tremendous amount of damage as Oki ending, but I'll explain what I mean by Oki and what its importance once we get like a little bit farther into it. But mostly what you want to use this for is very combo specific routes like I was showing in the corner. Or you want to use it as... Oops. I thought I was going to get close B. Or you want to use it as a combo ender for Oki situations. Alright. Jump 8C. It's basically the air version of his dash C, which we'll go over a second ago. It has a super nice hitbox, so it has some like weird air-to-air potential, but not a tremendous amount. But it's just that it has a hitbox that extends forward quite a bit. So in that sense, like it can challenge some air situations pretty surprisingly. But other than that, you pretty much use it as in combos, like the combo I was showing before. There you go. Where it bounces them off the wall. This takes one of your bounces, which is a slight issue. But there's a lot of situations where it's pretty darn useful. On counter hit, super nice. There's a lot of it has an incredible amount of untech time, but it's sort of really specific to the situation because it's based on how far the wall is, right? So unless you get a specific situation, it's not really that crazy. All right, let's go into command normals. Other than 6C, which is super important in terms of its distance, range, and damage, Helm Crusher, which is his overhead, is his only accessible overhead. Technically speaking, the third hit of Bitatsu is also an overhead, but obviously it's the third hit, so people can react to the first 2 hits being blocked and the third hit blocking high. So technically speaking, this is his only overhead. However, there's 2 problems with it. One, it's slow. That's the design of Under Night, but it is what it is, right? So there's that. That's a problem. The secondary problem is that it's negative on block. You can be punished on block. I should turn on what's it called? So you can see my terrible inputs. Oh god, there it is. Okay, but you can see I'm trying to do Bitatsu on block. It's not happening, right? So on block, it's punishable. You can use it at range here, and there's a lot of characters that don't have a 6-frame normal in order to punish you at this range. But honestly speaking, like I don't understand why you're using it this far out unless you're getting like really lucky. Plus, if you're using stuff this far out, you're getting to the point where you're using slower buttons, so an opponent will punish you by the time you get this. If you get this, cool. it's just an incredibly telegraphed overhead. It's very easy to block. That being said, as an Akatsuki player, that shouldn't deter you from using it. It is important to use because you want people to think about the overhead. The good thing about all of the negatives is that it has one really nice positive. There is a super nice thing is that it can combo on hit, on regular hit. You don't even need to chain shift it. That makes it really scary for opponents to not block it. So if you see someone who's not blocking it, or if you see somebody who's maybe blocking low too much, throwing this out every now and then might not be the craziest thing in the world. Having them think high, at least for a split second, is really important. I don't know if you remember, if you watched from a few weeks ago, but when Angel and I were talking about the mental economy, which is a phrase that she used in order to talk about how much things you have to think about in your brain. One of the problems that Akatsuki has as a character is that there's not a lot of things to think. It's not a lot of like scary things to think about, right? For the most part, you can down back and wait for your moment. And Akatsuki really has to sort of pressure you into making a mistake. However, if you add another thing to their head, that might make it a little bit easier. The only advice I'll give to you right now when using the move is that if you're scared, if you know the opponent has good reactions for one reason or another, I should say all guard crouching. If you know the opponent has good reactions for one reason or another, or you feel like, man, I really don't want to risk this right now with their health, positioning, anything like this, just hold chain shift before you do it, right? And that way you can keep your pressure going afterwards. It's kind of a waste on hit, obviously. If you late chain shift it, you might not be able to get pressure afterwards. But if you do it immediately, you're most likely able to continue pressure. It works in a lot of his combos. Other than that, it takes up a ground bounce, or it takes one of his bounces. So you've seen me do it quite a bit, where I do this. That's because, as for a move, it does hit quite hard. You can see that's 809. A little bit lower, right? Other than that, remember you can chain shift it on whiff. This one's Helm Crusher. This one's Jaw Crusher. For obvious reasons, right? This is the combo starter that's not a special. This shit hits hard. I shouldn't have said the S word. Sorry. A lot of the times, if you have the opportunity to fit this button in, which is at 10 frames, and a lot of the times you do, I want you to use this as your punish starter. For the most part. There's very specific situations where this is not the case. But they're few and far between. This should be your combo starter. You can consider this as your longest range whiff punisher. It does have some insane range. It's kind of, how to say, surprising. Not only does he step forward quite a bit, right? But also the hitbox extends to quite around like here-ish. It doesn't exactly look like, it's not exactly where this electricity is, but it's about slightly farther than that. Oops. Like that. So it's slightly farther than you think it is. And it's also the fact that he does step into it, right? So, normally speaking, you're kind of outside of the threat range of Akatsuki here without him doing Bitatsu. But 6C is a threat in that situation. However, it's negative a lot. How a lot? Chain shifting it doesn't necessarily get you pressure afterwards. That's how much a lot. Negative 16 to be specific. This thing also, like I was showing with the 2C, 2A whiff. Oops. Just needs to happen slightly faster. Scoops off the floor, which is really nice, right? So it just has a fantastic hitbox. I would suggest this in almost every situation. The only things to note, every situation that calls for it, I should say, because it's just so good. So mainly punishes, but as a whiff punisher, it's kind of scary, right? If you want to use it as a whiff punisher, I would suggest keeping chain shift. Because on block, you're not allowed to cancel it into anything, right? But you can chain shift it, right? So unlike Helmbreaker or Helm Crusher, which you can chain shift on whiff, you cannot chain shift this on whiff. It is a little bit scarier to use in that regard. It has different properties whether you hit it on the air or the ground. That's another thing to note, right? So you can see before, like, as a starter, it launches, right? And it's actually, you can't cancel it on hit either. However, if you use it as a juggle, it does have the ability to be canceled. And it doesn't launch them in the air. So it's kind of weird, but as combo filler, it's one of the best. All right, Skull Crusher, which is jump 6C. So I believe this was, my brain sucks, but this is an Claire change, I believe, is getting the charge aspect of this, which is really nice. So having charge 6C is super nice. It removes some of the necessity to use relaunch Fireball, but I was trying the combo. A second ago, and I didn't hit it once, so I'm not going to spend like an hour trying to do it. It has a super nice hitbox, right? Incredible hitbox for it. Right. On full charge, it is +2 on shield, which is super nice. Because normally when you try to do assault button in, and people recognize that, they go, okay, I'm going to shield it and take my turn back, right? But if you do full charge, jump 6C, you're actually +2 on it, so you keep your turn, which is crazy. It is just crazy on block. It will take a grounded hit, or it will take a ground bounce in certain situations. But that's only in full charge. When you full charge it, you can combo off it. If I remember what combo worked out of it, Jesus. But one of the other super nice things about it is that it gives some nice Oki. So the thing I was showing before, this combo. All right, catches back tech really nicely in that sense. So it does have that going for it. It also is accessible from neutral jump, which is nice because when you're if you neutral jump, then you're specifically getting neutral jump C. If you want something different for a little bit, something in front of you like this, then you can use that instead, right? Other nice thing about it is that it hits all characters rising. It just has a crazy good hitbox for that. All right, Tile Crusher. This is one of my favorite moves, but it's not necessarily good. This is one of those moves that sort of is fun to do, but it's also not amazing. Things to note about it. It does pause him in the air, which is really nice, and you can do it from jumping so that it sort of stops your forward movement, right? So instead of like assaulting all the way over like this, you can drop straight down afterwards. You'll see it a lot in combos for the most part. Like I was showing the basic bread and butter combo here. It does hit really hard. So it does have that going for it. It has some niche application for side switch like that. But it's basically used for corner combos and dealing high damage. That's about it. This is sort of very niche thing that was pretty early figured out. But it's nice. It's one of those cool things I like doing for fun. It's safe on block, I should say, but if it gets shielded, it's your butt. So don't do it. Don't do it unless you really feel like it's the right move. So we got dash B, right? It shares the same animation as close C, but it's just dashing, right? It is only -2, which is nice. I've seen it used as like a throw, as a punish, for like trying to catch throws or trying to frame counter, or not frame counter, frame trap, because it has this nice like sit back animation. And the sit back animation is like one of the longest animations you can have for a counter hit, because all of that is on tech. Like, he's leaning back, he's sitting on his butt, sort of thing. Like, all of that is stuff that you can work with. You maybe, the only thing to notice the difference between the two is that, whoops. Am I gonna get this? There you go. Okay. There's the after image animations here. That's basically the way to recognize whether it's close C or dashing B. It's good to know because remember what I was saying, that close C is +1 on block. This is -2 on block. For the most part, you're only going to see this in combos. I was showing this combo a second ago. Oops. That combo uses dash B pretty nicely. There's some other weird stuff too. I think this only works on big bodies. I shouldn't bother with it. Yeah, so good counter hit reward. It's also used as a frame kill quite a bit. You can do something like that because it recovers quite quickly. It recovers about as fast as any other like the B or C moves, and it moves them forward, which is really nice. 6-6C. This is a super important move in my opinion. This is his farthest reaching poke. Because it's forward moving, and it's the same animation as this, but on the ground. Right? This is a super duper nice move, not only because it has crazy range and it's forward moving, and it blows them back towards the corner, which is what we want from the character, but also at the same time, it is cancelable. Right? Super duper nice. So there's a lot of situations where you can set up a fireball to be plus on block because of how far you can use it from, right? Oops. Put you in the corner. You're also supposed to block? Oh, it accidentally sets it to random. There you go. Something like that where you use a fireball in this specific situation, it can make it plus. Not that you have a lot of things to control that range afterwards, right? But it does give you the option to either walk slightly forward, wait, you get extra frames to see what they're going to do, stuff like that. It has a lot of combo application too if you want to get into the super, super crazy stuff. Like, you're talking like top level combos. I don't use it tremendously for much of that. But it does have the ability to do that sort of thing. Alright, force function. He is unique as he has taken his Akatsuki Blitzkampf mechanic and translated it into Under Night, and it is his parry function, right? Unique in the sense that this character does have a parry that other characters don't. It is a one-frame startup, so it does have the ability to catch things that other characters don't have the ability to deal with. It's super nice in that regard. There's two things to note about it. One, that when it is used for repeat in intervals. All right, there you go. When used, all right, when used to negate fireballs, it just does that, right? But when he does get the hit, he's able to cancel it. This also is connected to his force function trait, which is that when it is or his Vorpal trait, I should say, which is that when he's in force function, it does have less scaling, so he gets better combos off it. Generally speaking, the combos off Reflector aren't big. They're kind of low, all things considered. However, when he does do it in Vorpal, it does slightly more damage, which is really nice. So there's things that he can punish that other characters cannot because he has parry. Reminder that it's force function, so it does take a block of grid meter. So use it sparingly. He does have an air, or he has a air option one. He has a low option, and he has a standing version. They pretty much all work similarly. The air version is pretty hard to combo off of, but is possible. Nothing to say anything about his throw, other than the two things to note about is that if you back tech it, you sort of have to double dash in order to catch them, and then it's kind of scary, right? You'll be kind of out of range for the most part. Especially if they backdash after that, they'll pretty much get out of it, but they give up a lot of range, right? The other thing that's super nice is that this actually does quite a bit of damage. You can see, like, it does 1632, right? If we do, like, a regular... Oops. You do a regular combo here, it does about 2700. That's like 60% of the way to a full combo. If you really think about throws in that regard, getting 2 throws is a full combo. So his throw is really, really good. In the corner, amazing. You have the ability to get really, really nice Oki. And in fact, you should use it pretty routinely. Throw loops. Yeah, you can definitely throw loop people, and I would suggest it. A lot of the lower level things that I see from Akatsuki players is they'll do a lot of tick throws, which is good, but it gives the opportunity extra frames to react to what's going to happen next, right? I'd say at the highest level, you'll see a lot of people just do throw on Oki, and you can do stuff like this. This is scary. Especially considering that in Under Night, blocking is a really, really good option. Alright. Air throw. Air throw is an extremely important aspect of this character. I would say that it's one of the things that really makes this character tick in a really, really big way. I am looking for jump. CPU, controller, jump. There it is. Okay. One unique thing, one of the more unique things about him is that he does have an air throw that he can combo off of, which is super sick. Leads to great damage. If you use it as like you can use that as an anti-air in some situations. Oh, I missed the B button. But, it's more, the times you're going to see it used more often, is right here to end combos with. This will give you the best Oki you can possibly get. This is the best situation for your Oki, because it puts them right at your feet, and also it gives you the ability to frame kill, move around, do a concentration, anything like that. It basically gives you the world of options here. This is one of the things that I always suggest to people is that to playing Akatsuki is that learning when to use it is super duper important, right? Sometimes truncating your damage for the situation is better than leading to or sometimes giving up damage for using the throw is better than dealing damage, because this character really struggles to get in because of his short range. So doing a combo like this, Whoops. Sends them really far away if you're not, you know, putting them in the corner. It sends them really far away and it doesn't give you the ability to continue your pressure. However, if you do something, if you leave them at your feet, I forgot I set them to back tech. You have the ability to chase them down, right? Secondarily, what's really nice is that you can choose the direction in which you air throw them. In fact, you'll see a lot of Akatsuki players not even bother with the rest of their combo and just side switch in these situations. So much so that I've seen this sort of thing, where you just do like 3 hits and side switch. You literally take anything just to take the positioning. This is super important because he excels in the corner, where obviously you can't run away from his short, stubby normals. It has, other than that, I would say that for the most part, as an anti-air, it's situational but good. But for the most part, using it as a way to control positioning is its best strength. Right? Now you're back in the corner instead of your back's against the corner. Super important. All right. Going through his specials really quickly. This is his fireball. It has the ability to be plus in certain situations, like we were talking about before. In this situation right here, oops. This is a plus frame situation that you can get for your fireball if you use a fireball because it's slightly slower, right? B fireball, way faster, more used for pressure, rarely used for combos, but has the ability, you know, to help you win fireball wars, right? Its hitbox isn't as great as it looks, but the slow speed allows you to control space like this. This is a good way to control, if you don't get people to react to this sort of thing, this is a good way to keep pressure by ending your block string in something safe and being able to continue it. The second thing is that, remember that you can whiff specials into supers. So, if you're just sitting here trying to win a fireball war, trying to get a little bit of damage, trying to chip, trying to get the fireballs coming at you, and they jump at you. Alright, I'm not getting this right. Anyway, the point being is that you can cancel it. You can cancel it on whiff, which makes it really, really nice for fireball pressure, right? Especially up close. B fireball, super faster. It doesn't give you the frame advantage, but it can be used to punish people in certain situations that jump up in the air and maybe get knocked down by this. If they get hit in the air, then you get to move and pressure up afterwards. C version lets out 4 fireballs in a row. For the most part, you can use this to keep yourself safe off certain things that are unsafe, obviously. Most notably, using this off of 214B, right? This is negative on block. But if you have meter, you have the ability to keep it safe by using air fireball in the end. You're technically plus in this situation. Oops. But if you're not inside the corner, it usually pushes out too far for you to get anything outside of something like this. However, if you threaten that to start, let's say, and the second time you do this, you can dash up after and get pressure because your opponent's thinking about not getting hit by this immediately, right? Also used in combos. Woo. In a very specific combo, if using it to pick up off that, so you can end combos like that quite a bit. Or spend 200 meter doing that. That's a pretty good like execution way, because a lot of the times in the corner, There you go. All right. So being able to extend your combo into stuff like CVO, into IW, is accessible because of something like that, right? He has air versions of this. They both blow him back quite a bit, but they have such a long pause in the air that they're kind of scary to use in neutral, and so I would almost never suggest this. There was that thing I was suggesting before where you do like something like that, right? You can do this in certain situations. It can be plus on block, and it can you can use it for like some meaty situations, but for the most part, you're not going to use it like that. Name of the game, Bitatsu. All right, there's a lot to say, but I'll go in order in terms of the button strength, right? So Eitatsu, it's a single hit, and it is off the ground, which means it'll go over some lows in certain situations. And at best, it can be +1. So if it hits late, there you go. If it hits late, it can be +1 on block. As you can see, the hitbox is not fantastic, right? It doesn't extend too far to the ground. However, it does let you pick off of certain situations. That 2C, 2A combo that I was doing before is accessible because of Eitatsu, right? So you're able to combo 2A into it afterwards. The best thing about it is that it has an absurd reward on counter hit. Super good damage. You can get more than that in certain situations. That's like just an easy go-to. But it has a tremendous amount of damage. Secondarily, also, is that it is actually -2 on block. So you can do stuff like this to catch people off guard. Which works more than you would think. It's only -2, but a lot of the times, by the time they've reacted to a single Tatsu, instead of the triple Tatsu, which, by the way, the first hit of both of them look exactly the same. So this is the first hit of Bitatsu. This is the first hit of Eitatsu. Looks exactly the same. So by the time they've reacted to it not being Bitatsu, you're pretty much plus. That being said, on a read, they will punish you, right? If you try to continue your pressure afterwards. But it's a way to mix up your pressure, right? It does change your air trajectory and move you forward. I wouldn't suggest using it for that because that's how you die. But you can do some tricky stuff like that. Yeah, it's up to +1 space. Thank you. I was trying to show that off, but it's kind of difficult because the hitbox is butt. But it can be done. It does have a full charge variant that I was showing off before. It's one of the things that he got in ST or in Claire, which is really, really nice. Oops, I still have counter up. Which is really nice. Oops. Because it gives you the ability to do that, right? So it lets you have a little bit more damage. Oh, I'm messing something up. Anyway. There you go. It does give you the ability to get slightly more damage if you're going to poke off this. Previously, what a lot of Akatsuki players did and will still do is that if they get a poke like that, they'll side switch doing it like that. Now you can get slightly more damage. So you can consider that as like a damage buff in a lot of situations, but there's a lot of combos in which lets you take corner positioning in a big way. It's super important for that sense. But if you do get the second hit, as in like, like that, if you get both hits, it just blows them far away. It doesn't have a tremendous amount of use in that regard. But it does have that. Infamous Bitatsu. And it's one of the reasons why I love this character. It is just an absurdly oppressive move when used in the right way. So, it is -4, so it is punishable on shield. However, it is one of the moves that just controls the most amount of space. Because it moves so far forward and has so many active frames, right? It is pretty fast on startup. It's 9 frames on startup. And travels forward. If you use it with dashing momentum, it goes even farther forward. So it has the ability to go farther than that. Remembering that the third hit is also a overhead. So if you put this into variable guard, the last hit will hit them. So if for some reason they don't know that, then you continue your pressure. However, if they do shield it, it is punishable. And they will try to, this is a very like sort of like base level thing for people to play against Akatsuki to know, right? Is to shield the third hit, right? Let me show this off. There you go. This is a very, very common thing for, this is like the base level versus Akatsuki thing that you have to learn. So as an Akatsuki player, the best thing for you to learn about this, is that when you have Warp Roll, you have the ability to cancel it. So when you see someone shielding it, there you go. There it is. All right. So when you see people shielding it and you have the ability to use Warp Roll or Chain Shift, you can punish it by doing a throw and getting a full grid break. Super scary, right? So once you have Chain Shift or when you have Warp Roll, this becomes way scarier, right? So if they're not shielding it, let's say they're just doing that, it's still punishable, right? Or it still takes your turn away. So one other thing you can do is Chain Shift the second hit of it and go for a high-low mix-up by doing either that, oops, doing a single hit into a throw, or just going low to start. Something like that. This allows you to really like force a mix-up on the opponent in a way that Akatsuki doesn't normally have without options, right? It's also a second way to keep this safe if you want to just throw it out and control space. If you're sitting in this range right here where 6C's out of range and you want to like really put pressure on them, this is a really good way to forward move and throw some hitboxes out of them. In the corner, it's very specific to having the ability to get a combo because it doesn't blow them far away from you. Like this. Whoops. Because it starts with a special. Whoops. Because it doesn't start with a special, it has really good damage, as you can see, right? That's me spending all my meter, but that's still like 5k. It's still a lot of damage, right? So it's super good for that. Other than that, you'll see it as, like, this is probably the worst Oki ender that he can get if it's not in the corner, because you can tech forward out of it. But it's a bread and butter, right? It's a good way if you have some random hit and you're taking it to the air. This is how you cash out on the damage. Just to note that if you do want to like spend meter on this, which we'll talk about the move in a second, to cancel the third hit, the second hit of it instead of the third hit, because if you cancel the third hit, oops. They'll fall out of it. Okay. Seetatsu. The best thing about this is that Seetatsu on the ground has some fireball invulnerability. Not on startup, but 3 frames afterwards, right? So it has fireball. All of it. It's all projectile invul. All right. So basically, throughout the most of the thing, it has the ability to go through projectiles. So it has the ability to win fireball wars by spending meter and doing that. On the ground, you can see it bounces them off in the air like this, but its real strength as a move is actually being done in the air. Because in Claire, I mean, they added the last hit of this. I messed this up. Oh, I got it. Which knocks them down on the ground. Because it knocks him down on the ground, it makes it almost one of the best ways to get Oki. It has a lot of the same properties as Air Bitatsu. However, because it carries to the corner, right? And if you're like anywhere near the middle of the screen, like this, this can be your extra corner carry into the corner, right? It just gives you a little bit of extra forward movement. So as an ender, it's one of the best. And in a lot of the ways you'll spend your meter. DP is done by doing down, down, A. That's important because doing down, down. So he has 2-2A and he has 2-2B. 2-2B used more as a grounded reversal, as in like when your ground's on the butt or when your butt's on the ground. This is one of those moves that you use because it's fully invincible on startup, right? So fully invincible on startup allows you to blow through a lot of things on wake up. However, obviously it's your butt on whiff or block, right? Because you don't have the ability to cancel it in any way. As you can see, me mashing chain shift. Oops. Me trying to do super cancel. That's not happening, right? However, if you use Aitatsu, which doesn't have full invulnerability, but does have some other invulnerabilities I'll talk about in a second. Oops. I hate down-down inputs, by the way. You do have the ability to chain shift it because it doesn't have the invulnerability. You can also cancel it. Whoop. There you go. On the air or ground, depending on where it is. It's kind of hard to time, but it is something that you can practice. There you go. And that can also be done on whiff. As opposed to Bitatsu or a BDP, which cannot, right? Both of them... Whoops. Can be doing it on hit, right? Which is pretty normal. But for the most part, what you want to do is use this one. You want to be able to use that one as an as a wake up reversal, and you want to use this one as an anti-air more often than not. This is probably your best anti-air. It doesn't have reward without resources. Oops. You have, like, you can continue that combo. I'm just being really bad right now. But gives you the ability to do a lot of good stuff out of it. The fact that you can whiff it, whiff cancel it. The fact that you can, whoops. You can chain shift it into a full combo. All that stuff becomes really, really important for the move. So I think that using 2-2A as his anti-air is his best anti-air, in my opinion. 2-2C is the same thing as B, but it gives you a little bit of extra reward. Honestly, for the most part, I wouldn't suggest using this other than as a kill situation, because you can use it to spend 200 meter to like crank out extra damage, because it is his most damage you can get for his meter. However, as you can see, it blows him away full screen. He can combo off it if his back is not to the wall, but the opponent is close to it, which is a very specific situation. And I'm not very good at spacing it properly, and it's kind of a hard combo, but it does exist. Other than that, this isn't really meter you should be spending. Honestly, using 2-2B is about the same risk as using 2-2C on Wake Up, so it's not really that different. It's not really, it doesn't the meter is not justified, is my opinion of this move. Use it if you can kill with it, but that's about it. All right, so we're going to his IW. His IW is very good. It does a shit ton of damage. I shouldn't have said that. It does a lot of damage. It does a lot of damage. This is a pretty common thing that people joke about, right? You do. Come on, buddy. There you go. Bitatsu into IW, which is an easy way to just get like 4.7 or 4.2 damage, I should say, without Vorpal. Super duper good. This is an incredibly scary thought for an opponent to have, to lose a quarter, like a third of their meter or health just because they got eaten up by a Bitatsu while pressing buttons. Very scary, right? Other than that, it does have full invul, just like most other IWs do. It has the ability to go through fireballs and almost anything else. So if you're sitting at this range and you have the ability to use this meter effectively, like if you have a lot of grid or if you can kill with it, and you see an opponent do something from this range, this is a punish that you can do. This is not a bad idea for a punish. Because it moves so far forward, it just controls space really well. Okay, that overview took way longer than I thought. I'm going to go over pretty darn quickly, like, how I feel like you should approach the character in terms of his uniqueness and his ability. And then I want to watch some quick match footage, alright? So, one of the things I would stress with this character when you're playing him is that you have to learn that this character has stubby normals and doesn't have a lot of range. In fact, most of his range exists in his fireballs, and obviously that means that you can't combo off them in most situations. So, what I would stress is that you learn how to dash block. I think this is so important that I've actually I started button binding for the first time in Undernight, because there is a dash macro, which is 6AB. 4AB, 6AB will give you the ability to dash, right? Which is super important because he doesn't have a run, right? He has to dash. His dash is super fast. It's super good, right? But it obviously means that you can only control a certain amount of range. It's nice that he can block it out of it almost immediately. So this is why I suggest learning how to button dash instead of doing 6-6, which is the same thing. Is learning how to button dash will also mean that you can go into block almost immediately. So you do 6AB, hold back, right? I have a button for this, which makes it really nice for me to do stuff like this. I have a dedicated button that allows me to do this sort of thing. Right? So I would suggest learning how to dash block, because a lot of the time your goal is to actually get the opponent in the corner in order for you to not only do your crazy amount of damage, but also be able to limit their movement. So once you get into this position, you have the ability, like I was showing off before, you have the ability to really put pressure on them in a way that's scarier, because they're not getting pushed away when you do stuff like this, right? This becomes super scary when you don't have the ability to jump away, backdash from this, stuff like that, right? So how do you take the corner positioning? Well, there's two ways. One is you carry to the corner as best as you can. I don't want you to use jump Bitatsu all that much for your combo ender, but it does get the job done. The second thing to do like I said before, spend meter to get there, which is really nice because it puts you in this fantastic situation. And then lastly, if your back's against the corner or if the corner is positioned better behind you, air throw and side switch doing that way. This is, I would suggest either one of those. I would suggest doing that over taking the damage almost 95% of the time unless you can kill, or it puts you in a situation where it's super important for you to do so, right? Because getting grid is so important, because chain shift opens up his abilities so much. Like I said before, there's two things that I would suggest once you have chain shift, right? You can force the Bitatsu mix up, right, with chain shift, or threaten Bitatsu into chain shift throw for a shield punish. Or it gives you the ability to do your overhead and then keep it safe in order to continue your pressure. So getting those abilities is really important, but also stealing the defensive ability from your opponent is very good, because once you take the corner, you want the reward of being able to maul them in this situation, right? You want to be able to do damage to this guy by being in the corner. So taking that away from them is also very important. The Vorpal trait's not tremendous. It has one every 100 matches, but really keeping Vorpal trait, keeping Vorpal away from your opponent is better than having it yourself almost. So there's two ways to make sure that you keep grid blocks up. Dash blocking, every time you move forward, you gain a little bit of grid, right? Dash blocking is super important. So getting in by dash blocking allows you to get meter or grid blocks that you wouldn't have before, right? Same thing with assaulting. That's obviously just a different way of getting in, right? You getting over something more specific. But lastly and most importantly, throws. Your throw is good. Your throw does a lot of damage, and it gives you the ability to really threaten people, especially if they backtech. So if they backtech, then they're still going to be pushing themselves back towards the corner. Sorry. That's what I meant. This is your way that, obviously, every time you get a throw, you get a little bit of grid, and you steal some from your opponent, right? Shielding, obviously, super good once you get it down, but scary, because once you get grid broken, then you're really losing it, right? So I would suggest mainly focusing on dash blocking and also getting throws in order to get your grid and taking it from your opponent. Yes, 6 AB. Sorry, looking at notes. In terms of combos, I would suggest going for corner carry. I would focus more on keeping pressure than anything else. I wouldn't suggest all the time going for air throw in certain situations like that. But honestly, like, I don't hate this combo. I actually quite like it, because it gets you almost the same amount of damage as you did before. As you see, that's like 2.8 with Vorpal, right? Whoops. This is only slightly more and you lose Oki. Right? So, I think prioritizing Oki with this character is really important. It gives you just a tremendous moral options for you to put pressure on the opponent, and keeping the opponent in pressure is the way this character wins. Early on, I would threaten throws because it opens up your game. Later on, I would look for the shields that happen from your pressure and then try to punish them with your throws in that way. That would be my suggestion, like, early on. So there's like basically two types of characters that you play against. There's long range characters like Phonon, Merkava, Batista, stuff like that. Characters that really give you a lot of trouble. And then there's characters like Hyde, Enkidu, who have slightly more range than you. Stuff like that. Characters that don't have as much or don't have as much range as those characters, but they have more range than you and they still have to get kind of close to you, like Byakuya. Those characters, I would have to say, are characters that you have to sort of like pay attention to the spacing quite a bit. And by that, I mean that you have more ability to move around to characters like Byakuya and Linne and stuff like that. So really focus on like holding that good spacing. And then when you find the opportunity, dashing into that range, even if you block stuff, you're pushing them away from you and pushing them more towards the corner. So you're really just looking for that one opening. Against characters like Merkava and stuff like that, I suggest like a lot of bulldogging. Just dash forward, hold down back, wait for your moment, look for him to do something, dash again, and just rinse and repeat until you see him make a mistake. As soon as he makes a mistake, punish it however you can, move forward, rinse and repeat until you get him into the corner. And once you get him into the corner, then you really are going to put the damage, right? Most characters actually, even if they have fast normals, struggle with dealing with Akatsuki's pressure in the corner because he has such good buttons and he puts himself at great ranges in order to threaten you, right? You standing here, you're thinking, oh, I'm outside of his range. You have 6C, you have 6C, you just have raw fireballs, which will do the trick too. Stuff like that becomes really, really scary, right? You have to learn when to use those sorts of things. Because although it is punishable in this area right here, it's a full combo now. The value is just skyrockets, right? So it becomes a different it becomes a different game. So generally speaking, that's how I would approach matchups, is really focus on holding, blocking first and approaching, and then afterwards looking for that punish. Whether it be if you're dashing in this range and then you see something whiff, then you can punish it, right? Or if you see them, let's say, jump in the air, then you can anti-air them some way. Outside of that range, really, it's not the worst thing to throw a fireball out. Throwing an air fireball, or an A fireball, sorry, and dashing behind it a few times is good if you get the opportunity. But note that some characters like Merkava, like Eltnum, like Batista, all these characters have the ability to punish you at full screen. So throw them wisely. Fireballs are good in this game, and his fireball is good for sure, but it needs to be used sparingly and used effectively. Otherwise, this is just you giving up free grid. This is you giving up free stage positioning, because if you do this at full screen, I'm just gonna dash over this, jump over this, slide underneath it, whatever, stuff like that. That's basically like a core idea behind it. Okay, so I'm sorry I'm going slightly over, but I do want to do at least one match before we get into this. So this is from our friends at Low Kick Esports. They've been running, like I was saying at the beginning of the stream, they've been running locals over in the Midwest, Chicago scene for quite a bit online during the pandemic, and we really thank them for that. So they've been kind enough to give me footage for us to go over. So this is one match that I'm going to go through, and the reason why I'm going through it is because this is a matchup that I think is Akatsuki does pretty well in, but it's a range. It's a matchup where he loses in range quite heavily. Okay, everything's set up. Gotcha. All right. So we're going to go over this. It's going to be a short match. I will stop and basically explain little things and then move on, right? So I haven't watched this myself. I kind of want to keep the level of analysis that I normally keep for matches by just watching them and exploring them as with you guys. But the thing I want to note is basically, sorry, how I'm gaining information and relaying it back, right? So looking at the amount that happens in the screen, because Under Night's one of those games where it's like sometimes there's not a right answer when you're observing. There's wrong answers, maybe, but sometimes there isn't a right answer. Hey, comedy guy, how's it going? So we're going to go through this and try to explain basically little stuffs. Just vibing, love to hear it. So you can see already, like, how did this player start, Havard? How did he start with this? He started with dash blocking. And this is like one of those things, or I was saying a second ago, right? You just really need to bulldog your way in on certain characters. And so starting off with just a dash block, just to sort of test the waters, move forward. If he's expecting a backdash from Gordeau, which makes sense, he's a long-range character, and just really start applying himself, right? Dash, block, relax. He gets hit out of this, just put into range, just pressing buttons at the wrong time, but the idea is there, right? He's in control. He controlled the range by moving forward. This is just pressing buttons at the wrong time for the most part. You do wake up Skull Crusher? Or wake up Skull Crusher. All right. Remember I was saying this move hits everybody on the ground, right? Even when they're crouching. Super nice. I wouldn't suggest that all the time. I think you just made a hard read on maybe an assimilation, which is Gordeau's command throw. So that would have punished it, right? But it is a really good move, right? He did it in the air. He's plus on block. So he goes low afterwards. Noctis tried to press a button there, and it just didn't work out. All right. Press 2C on top of it. Long, or heavy startup on the button like that. So he tried to go for the side switch combo because remember I was saying before, in this situation right here, he's closer to that corner to the right. Ooh, sorry, I'm mirrored. He's closer to that corner and to the right than he is to the left, right? So he wants to do a combo where he side switches and he takes the corner positioning. Again, saying that Akatsuki really is strong once he's in your face. What's a way to limit people's space is to put him in the corner. So it just doesn't work out. He unfortunately just misses the combo in this situation. And then he sits back and relaxes a little bit. He gets caught by nails. This is what I was saying before, is a lot of the time your fireball isn't your best option. He's trying to toss an A fireball and run behind it. But it's one of those things like, I've said that like 1,000 times today. I'm sorry. It's you basically just tossing a fireball at the wrong time, but it shows the threat of throwing a fireball at that moment. So he gets a combo. All right, uses the DP to get out. Remember, using 2-2B as a reversal more than 2-2A. 2-2A can be used as a reversal if you don't expect something immediately, and it gives you the ability to cancel it afterwards into super or chain shift. But I wouldn't suggest it most times. All right, gets aggressive. He sees the shield and throws it. This is a super big moment because at this moment right here, you can see the grid cycle is almost up. So he's about to win the grid cycle because the grid's broken on his side, and he's going to be able to keep Vorpal. This is really important because not only after the throw does he get a lot of damage because it's a grid break throw, but also he's going to be able to control space in front of him much better because even he can start pressure by doing like a fireball chain shift. Not the best use of it, but it is a thing you can do for sure. Right? So dashing forward, controlling space. This was the thing I was showing you guys earlier where you do a fireball from that far out and you get plus frames, and then use dash C in order to close down the gap, putting people in block stun and making them think that that's your space to control. Bitatsu on block. Tries to force a mix-up here. Oh, he got gripped out of that. Yeah, so he saw jump 6C in the air. I don't think that hits in the air after B Tatsu chain shift. It doesn't hit. I didn't think so. Because faster moves than that don't hit. Jump charge 6C whiffs, but jump 6C will hit. Gotcha. Okay. So he just got called out on that for the most part.
I'd say that's probably one of his biggest.
Oi, 2C. Oh, he dropped the combo. That would have been it.
That's what I wanted to say.
Tries to control the space in front of him using B Tatsu. He does have the meter, right, to cancel it into quarter forward C into EX fireballs in order to keep pressure going. So he's just basically trying to lock him down and then move on afterwards, but it doesn't work out because you get a nice backdash from Noctis. He has the ability to control more range using Gordeau, so he doesn't really have a reason to continue pressure in that situation. So he gets a throw.
So that wasn't a 1DD. Probably he wanted to 1DD that, but it just came out as 1D.
Yeah, I think he wanted a CS cancel late on the with Tatsu, but got 1D.
There, dash block, nice shield, but gets opened up afterwards.
Smashed by the 3C here. So another big start from Noctis.
Nice. Use the meter to extend a little bit farther for Gordeau, and he just goes for an empty low setup, whiffing jump A and faking the overhead, and then going low. So big problem here is that he doesn't really have anything to do with he doesn't really have a good ability to win meter or win grid in this situation. He did just spend chain shift, so we'll see. Oh, all right. Out of range for Veil off. He's really just trying to, you know, start anything at this point, but he gets punished for it. Missed the combo. Chain shift? Yeah, all right. All right, continue on. Also, the replay stuff from Low Kick has been pretty nice. I don't know if you guys watched the exhibition that was on for Frosty Faustings, but the replay thing made it really cool.
I think Harvard there, I think he was. You can eat. I think you can eat a lot more. I mean, it depends on how much HP you have.
Alright.
Ward's real game plan is that you have they really thrive on you being scared of Commander. Like make them take the risk of going for Commander.
All right, starts off with jump early on, expecting maybe something like Mortal Slide or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. A low poke, but starts off with the aggression.
Try to be in their shoes for a little bit.
Gets the first grid break. This is early in the cycle. This is within the first section of the cycle. So the grid break is gonna be difficult for him. It's not going to be the end of the grid cycle, as in he's not going to win it, but he has the ability to control the next set of the grid quite a bit. Oi. Yeah.
That entire situation is actually. Oh wow, he got caught mashing.
Yeah. There you go. All right. So he actually didn't block enough things to have his grid recover. Every time you block, you recover a little bit more grid. So like blocking things sometimes is like the best way to get back into the grid game. Obviously scary because you don't have the ability to shield or chain shift. But it is one way you can circumvent the length of the grid break. So he's gonna win grid in this situation, right? He also has a little bit more meter, and this amount of grid is gonna translate into a bar. So once you have that first 100, and once you have that first cycle, you're really in control here. So once you've gotten to this point, he's going to use Fireball Chain Shift in order to just keep the pressure up, moving far forward. Gets the overhead. Yeah, grid break on top of which. I think that's a missed combo. I don't know if there's a double Helm Crusher combo, but it is what it is. All right, gets the gold throw. Throws himself with the plus frames you get from teching throws. is going to use Bitatsu to forward move and put pressure on him. You can shield in this specific situation because he doesn't have Vorp roll, so he can't chain shift punish. But you're going to expect that he's going to spend meter in this situation because he does have 200. So really don't expect like to take your turn after this.
But good awareness, or at least good presence.
Oi, catches the backdash. He's gonna chain shift just to get like a slight bit of meter. Little optimizations, but it works. So good job on taking the first one. Really, like what that round showed me is how strong it is to win Vorpal, right? 2 grid breaks basically lost Noctis the round. And that, like, just getting that throw grid break to start, winning the first cycle, just lent to so much momentum for Akatsuki. Wow, doing it again? You're just so plus on charge jump 6C. All right, catches him out of the air. So unfortunately, once he gets this, right, he gets the super. Neutral text, which is good, but then he backdashes afterwards. So he loses quite a bit of grid and doesn't really have the ability to win grid without doing something aggressive. That sort of forces Havertz's hand early on without it saying that if he wants to fight for the grid war this first time, then he's going to have to do something here. So just Noctis presses the button that covers that range almost entirely. And he gets caught.
Gets hit by counter hit by C.
Yeah, it was high counter, so I think Havard was doing dash up Bitatsu. Got hit
Double assimilation.
And safe jump. Delay text and safe jump.
There you go. Keeps the pressure up.
See again.
Yeah, just catches him with the 2C. It's largely because you are plus 10 on that fireball afterwards, but you just have to... After dashing up, you really have to sort of threaten the fact that you have to put people in block stun at those ranges. That's the thing that Akatsuki has to struggle with that other characters don't, is that if you don't have anything in that range, you really have to sort of threaten people first using things that aren't as rewarding like dash C. So in that situation, if you did, let's say, dash C fireball first, right? Next time that situation comes around, Noctis is not going to feel like he has the opportunity to press buttons in that situation. So he's going to be like, all right, I'm going to sit back and block this out. And then afterwards, I'm going to start my pressure. But that's the time you get to dash up. Unfortunately, it gets grid broken here. It's not like it's going to matter because that's the end of the round. How's it going, Jashichi? Hope you're doing well. Jashichi helped me put this together a little bit, so big thanks to him. Akatsuki extraordinaire. Hey, whiff jump A. He tried to shield. He tried to shield the jump in to take his pressure back, but he did jump A whiff and then grid broke him, and that's rough. Ground fireballs, close enough. Goes for the overhead. I was saying how the overhead's not that good, right? Because it's so slow, but you're seeing right here that it's actually just working because it's putting an extra thing in people's head, right? So while Noctis is worrying about other things, he's not spending brain power or reacting to the overhead. And this is just adding extra stuff for Noctis to worry about later on.
Okay. Probably air. Oh no, okay, he went with the regular ender.
Red missed to death. He'll take that trade.
Can do it apparently. We got the
Yeah.
No.
He missed it. So there's a dash under combo that lets you keep the corner. So the thing I wanted to highlight here is that in this situation,
Oh no, okay, he went with the regular.
after this trade right here, which is nicely, it's nice. It's nice that it's a trade for Akatsuki and not a combo, right? So he techs, does Bitatsu. And you would think in all situations right here, like grid broken, he doesn't have meter for it, like this is not a good Bitatsu. But the idea being is that he really needs to control this positioning right here. If he doesn't control this right now, he's going to lose all momentum of the round because the grid break has basically lost him this ability right here. So remember what I was saying before when I was going over the buttons is that your range has to be deceptively longer than it normally is using stuff like this, right? You can use dash C in this situation, but there was a read from Havard to do B Tatsu instead because he thought something like 3C from Gordeau was going to happen.
You can do it apparently.
And remember the increase of the reward, getting the full combo in the corner, and he gets the punish. That wasn't a punish? Oh, is 2B 8 frames? Is Gordeau 2B 8 frames? Gotcha. All right, that's why. Yeah, Akatsuki's is... Akatsuki's 2B is 8 frames. I know that.
You can do it apparently. We got the dash out? No.
So misses the combo. This is such a huge loss. This is a really, really big loss for Akatsuki. In fact, I would say that for the most part, if you're looking at this like trying to sort of pick up little Akatsuki things, I would say that the best thing to pick up is that you want to keep corner positioning more than anything in the world. He's going for the top tier damage stuff, so he just missed the cross under. But it is like, to consider the risk reward of doing this combo, this is the loss. It's a lot. Quartz 2B is too slow. Thank you for the confirmation.
Has to block this out. He tried to dash block. Oh my goodness. Havard has to.
Yeah, he did try to dash block. He got caught. Unfortunately, wasn't blocking in time. But really, like, ending up losing the grid cycle a second ago here was really the big issue, and it was largely because he just got shielded in this specific situation, right? Havard was getting a little bit too aggressive. Because partly, most likely, that he felt bad for losing the corner, so he's just gonna do it, right? But it is what it is. Blocks this out. I would suggest that in certain situations, like there's a couple things there he probably could have shielded, but chose not to, or didn't think about it. And those things go a long way for winning chain shift or winning Vorpal, and really winning Vorpal is so important for this character. Well, it's important for everybody, but you can see how much better Havard did with winning Vorpal and with not winning Vorpal. Yeah, and that should be it. Noctis is a phenomenally good player, though, so this is not to say anything about anybody. But I'm glad it was a short enough game for us to go over really quick, because I went over 30 minutes today, and I wasn't supposed to do that. All right. Sorry this took so long. This is my first time doing this sort of thing, so I'm trying to learn as I go along, just like with the exhibitions. First time I did the exhibition, it was a mess, and the second one was way better, and I'm hoping the third one will be even better, which will be next week. I will hopefully get the people announced sooner than later for the exhibition next week, which will be on the 18th, so I'll have another Undernight exhibition for that. I have not gotten everybody down just yet, but we'll see. I should switch to my face. Woo, hey. But if you like this sort of thing, I'm trying my best to provide more learning content for people. I don't know. There's a guy called Salty Goku that has some good matches. This will be it for today. I might do some more match footage maybe next stream, because I want to do an exhibition and something else. So we'll maybe go over some more match footage. But this is basically what I do on my own stream if I'm not just playing video games for no reason, right? What is there to say? Anyway, if you guys like this, like, I love to do more of these. I'm going to do basically most of the beginner quote-unquote characters for this, and have other people help me with this, where characters I don't know as well. But this was a pretty poor rundown for the very first one. So it is what it is. I hope you guys enjoyed it at least. I hope you learned something if you're picking up the character. Next stream will be a Undernight exhibition. And then, yeah, that's all. Just a few last words for the rest of the stream. Remember, we have a Gleam giveaway for Wintertide Miracles.